Hello and welcome to The Lab, a Minecraft podcast where we explore, experiment, and theorize about all things Minecraft. I'm Miner Thoughts, and with me, as always, is my co-host and my brother from down under, the Troge. Also returning once again into Realm's green-approved Redstone Dino, Jurassics. And lastly is a man on a quest to farm everything in Minecraft and just passed 400,000 subscribers on YouTube, RaysWorks. Congratulations, Ray, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello there, and thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And yes, congratulations. Massive milestone.
Yeah.
So how did you actually decide, like going back to when it all started for you, when did you actually decide that you wanted to make YouTube Redstone videos?
It wasn't something I really thought about. I was actually playing on servers, and people would come up to me and be like, "Where's the tutorial for this? Where did you get this from? Like, where on the internet did you find this?" And I'd be like, "Oh, this is just something I made myself." And they're like, "Really? Like, this is not on the internet. This is like no one's doing this type of thing. You need to show what you're doing." Because it's like so unique. I'm like, I don't know, YouTube, it's YouTube. It comes with the pros and cons. I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll make some videos about it.
So you've been doing it for a while now, yeah?
Yeah. The YouTube I've been doing for a while. I mean, prior to that, I was even uploading just images and stuff, like small message boards and stuff like that, helping people out with Minecraft related stuff. But yeah, doing the YouTube was a big step and also a pretty important step, because it let me reach a bigger audience than like one-on-one helping people.
Well, you've certainly come a long way. That's that's for sure. I think you've been mentioned. I think because I've only been playing Minecraft myself since 2020, when my son wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I had never played Minecraft before. I just thought it was a kid's game with bad graphics, and then my son got me into it, and I fell in love with it. But I remember the first time hearing your name was on a lot of Hermitcraft videos. They'd say, "Oh, this farm's by RaysWorks, this farm's by RaysWorks," and that's sort of how I got to see your channel, because they'd name drop and they'd go look. So it's you've achieved a lot in your few years.
Oh, thanks.
That's how I first heard of RaysWorks also. It was, I forget what season it was, but you had built a sheep cannon for Hermitcraft, and I was like, "Oh, I want that! I need explosions! I want to do that!" And it just so happened I used that same design. We had a minigame area, and I was using pigs with saddles, and it was your design in a minigame area. But yeah, I love that machine, and that's how I first discovered you, Ray.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, the machine it's not like what I normally make. It was definitely kind of like a one-off thing. I got a message, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do this particular redstone?" And I was like, I'll give it my best. And of course, I had to keep it under wraps. So I was like streaming it, but I couldn't tell people why I was making such a bizarre machine.
Well, one thing you can be assured of, if you come up with a contraption that involves explosions, Miner will be all over it, like you will not believe.
I'm on a quest to do a reverse caves and cliff achievement. I want to shoot myself from bedrock to build height.
I see, yeah. So are you actually trying to be like really close to the bedrock, like as low as possible?
As low as possible, yes.
Oh, yeah. That is challenging.
No wonder you're excited when the wind charges came into the game, Miner, and you got so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of wind charges, that's like a new item that's come into the game recently, and you're on a quest, Ray, to make every item in the game farmable. What made you decide to go from making redstone tutorials and helping people, etc., to going, I'm going to make every item farmable? Because that's quite the quest.
Yeah, I think it was actually kind of, I did it kind of reverse. So like a lot of those simple farms, people are like, yeah, I enjoy making the simple farms, designing simple. I did not enjoy designing simple farms. I was all for like the really niche farms. I was doing like jockey farms of all sorts. And then I thought, why don't I just kind of like, go back and try to sweep all the other easier farms? Because I think I could do them, I'm doing these jockey farms. I should be able to go back. I've done these type of farms in the past, make it a whole kind of series. And then it just kind of went from there. I still do kind of niche farms, but I really have like kind of learned how to enjoy doing even the simpler farms, looking into all the little mechanics.
When they introduce a new item into the game, because obviously every time they do an update, there's something new that comes out. What's sort of your thought pattern about, I want to make this farmable? Because on the outside, wind charges is probably not the easiest thing to necessarily farm because, there's half an hour between resets, whatever it is, but with the various spawners. What's sort of your thought patterns that goes into, they've introduced a new item and how can I farm this? How do you sort of start the process?
It's actually been getting more interesting with the more recent versions. There's more uniqueness. I don't know if you guys, you think of like the amethyst clusters, how they're locational. So like you have to do it in a special location. Now we're getting like these spawners, right? They're special. It is making it a funner challenge than like the farms in the past where they're kind of like you do one, you can kind of take that same idea and just copy paste it and make a whole bunch of, similar type of farms. So depending on what it is, mostly I try to go into it just saying like, okay, what is like this, not necessarily like the simplest farm I can make out of it, but what is just a simple way to farm this? And then once I get down the basics, and then I'll kind of like backtrack and try to make it like survival friendly, try to make the like resource cheap, maybe kind of easy to build up early game. Only after do I get like the core, like actual farming mechanics down, do I kind of work on everything that people kind of enjoy, but they don't really think about until they're actually trying to build it in survival.
Yeah. Do you look into the code or is it just playing around in Minecraft?
I haven't really looked at code too much. I can do a little bit of coding, but not very much. Typically, I kind of go towards the goal in game. If I run into something like, okay, I wonder what, like one kind of question, like what is the limitation of how far the sniffer can dig up something, right? Because it has like this big body. Maybe it can sniff up everything within that whole body. Maybe it can do it a little bit further. So I had somebody check the code to see how far out, and it was like, I can't remember, like 1.5 meters from the center or something. And then I can use that to like kind of constrain my farm. You can end up making a farm simpler than what it needs to be if you understand a little bit of the actual code behind it. But some stuff you can just kind of brute force it in survival, especially with like the tick sprinting. You can just run some tests and see what works and what doesn't work.
That must have been a game changer for yourself, especially, but for many Redstoners, having those tick warps and tick sprints and like push forward, that must have really helped with a lot of the more technical farms.
Yes, especially for me, because the majority of the time I'm playing in a snapshot. Whatever the newest version is, that's what I'm playing in. And it's usually a snapshot of some sort. And and then because it's a snapshot, I can't get access to a lot of the mods that people use to make their game, funner, easier, that sort of thing. I end up kind of using the same old vanilla mechanics to try to get stuff done.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that sort of constraint, because like we on Interrealms, we typically wait until probably like 1 or 2 updates later to update. So a lot of the time so at the moment we're on 1.21.1, and obviously that my creative design or creative world is in that. So we're not even playing around with the most recent stuff. So it's interesting that you say that, and it sort of brings to attention how difficult and how challenging those things are without some of the mods we take for granted.
Well, okay, not everybody waits and doesn't play the snapshots. When those wind charges came out, I was watching other creators like yourself, Ray, and others play around with these in snapshots, and they were changing from week to week. 1 week they're nerfed, the other week they're not. And I'm sure for you, Ray, that gets frustrating to where from week to week snapshots change something, then you have to go back to what you've made and rework it.
I've been getting better at this over the years. I get to a point where I can kind of understand what's going to be changed and what's not going to be changed. And if it's something that's going to be that I think is going to get changed, I'll just kind of like not really touch it much, or maybe I'll just briefly look at it or talk about it.
Yeah.
And I got to such a point where I don't really end up wasting much time working with something that won't actually make it into the full release. So wind chargers, yeah, there's some little niche things here and there that change, but overall the mechanic was pretty, there's some parts of it that are pretty well, stayed the same. And I was able to kind of show that stuff. And then when they change anything, then I'm able to take that now free time to talk about the new stuff and maybe try to implement that into something.
And that kind of brings me to asking the question of everybody. And this is something that we wanted to touch on in this episode, is the experimental changes in Redstone, how we all feel about it. Is it going to be something that's like the villager rebalances where they just kind of like push it to the side, or if it's something that's eventually going to get implemented? What do you guys think about?
I guess I can go first. For me, it's something that I've seen coming down the pipeline for such a long time. I worked with people who actually were on the modded side and they were implementing these different fixes prior to them ever coming out for the actual full release of vanilla. So I kind of understood like the problems. I run into these problems. I don't do a ton of Redstone. I know people call me Redstone person, but I maybe 10% of what I do is actually Redstone. Most of it's just game mechanics. But the Redstone, yeah, the parts that I don't like about it, to be honest, is the locational stuff. I think they can fix the location thing without sacrificing some of the other things. So I think it's definitely going to come to the game sooner than later. And I think people will end up liking it as long as they don't lose some of the more niche mechanics.
So for me, I think the Redstone has needed a big look at it for some time, and they've been continuing to add in items or blocks to the Redstone, which has been fantastic for all of the new contraptions, farms, Redstone, all that stuff has been great. But I think there's always been that sort of weird situation where there's a lot of like nuances to things. I think that's made it quite difficult for players coming in to understand the Redstone. It's not, on or off. There's, quasi connectivity and things like that. The being on glass or being on a full block or being on different kinds of blocks or powering different blocks. So I think to sort of really have a good look, but also to get the community involved has been probably the biggest, best decision that they could have done, because everyone sees these things from a different perspective. And I think having the community get involved and say, we can sacrifice this thing if we get this. If we don't get this, then it kind of breaks too much. But I don't think we should be afraid of change, because we don't know what will happen in the future, which we can now, by having that change, we'll be able to use Redstone in a much better way. It'll make much better contraptions, which we can rely on, like the hoppers working correctly, in my eyes, things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Future compatibility.
Because, for me, when I first started learning Redstone, it was just a mess for me, and it was a real struggle. I don't come from a computing or coding or anything like that. So it was really trial by error, brute forcing things, just building a farm and seeing if it works. And then when it breaks, how do I fix that? But I think having that, now that the whole of Minecraft has got so much more complex from when I started playing it 10 plus years ago, it helps the new generation of players coming in that keeps the game going and keeps Microsoft and Mojang interested in continuing to develop it.
There was, when they announced these originally and the first lot of changes came out, there was a lot of pushback, that especially over on Twitter or X, from a lot of content creators saying, "Oh, this is going to break. This is going to break." And there was a few videos that came out that I saw too from various of the creators saying, "Oh, this thing will break. This will break." Is that a concern as like a Redstone person, to use your words? Is that a concern when they bring changes out that farms or doors or contraptions that you've made in the past aren't going to function anymore? Is that a concern?
I think it was a really big deal way back in the early days of Minecraft when they would change something. It wouldn't even seem like they were changing something related to Redstone, and it would somehow break Redstone. But overall, the whole community has kind of moved away from the actual Redstone dust into, like I said, game mechanics. So they're not actually hitting as big of, like, if they make a mistake, they're not hitting as big as it would probably been in the past. But it's still quite a bit. That's the main way to transfer automation over distance is still related to Redstone. One aspect or another. They could definitely get it to work the way it did mostly in the past, while still implementing these changes. I think people are it makes sense to go with something that people can understand when it comes to how Redstone works in every location, rather than being up in the air, almost like when it comes to what's going to update first.
Yeah, I think having that more deterministic Redstone, even then they've said there's still going to be some randomness with certain conditions, edge cases. So I think that just helps everyone. Yes, it will break some farms, but also then you're not sort of, I think once you get used to those changes, you'll understand, right, if I turn that lever on and there's 2 bits of redstone dust to that's going to activate first, and then once that activates. So I think change is always scary, but I think having a much more deterministic Redstone and one that actually is clear to understand is going to be so much better in the long run.
Yeah.
And currently they haven't implemented a lot of the devices, like a lot of things that you do attach to the side of your Redstone. Those currently don't follow these rules. I think that's at least what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting to see how do these other devices interact with the whole update order thing.
Is that are you talking about like pistons and the
connectivity? Not necessarily that problem, but in general, like right now the whole update order is like completely, it's following the Redstone, right? As soon as the Redstone stops, the rule ends, right? And they're hoping to add this rule to other things. It'll be interesting how that, because that's kind of where a lot of this uncertainty comes from, is when you start adding other components in, then they start interacting with each other.
Right, I get you. Yeah, I think having that, like you say, once they can add those components in and we can see how that works within the whole Redstone environment, then it's going to be much more understandable for everyone in the long run.
Yeah. From what I saw, when the first snapshot came out, introducing these changes, these experimental changes, from what I saw, it was mostly the technical community, some technical circles, to where they'd put a lot of time into contraptions and whatnot, whether it be a door or, a full-blown computer or something else in Minecraft. And they have wrapped their head around certain glitches and bugs in Minecraft, and they understand them enough to where they'll build their contraptions around, locationality and these things. So I think those people were the ones most upset by the possibility of these changes.
I'll just chime in about this. It really just comes down to the people that are doing stuff really, really fast in Minecraft. The changes aren't going to impact people that are doing stuff at normal speeds. It's mostly people that are doing like the instant open doors, instant closed doors, anything that you're trying to get like 0 time or very low time. Mm-hmm. Those are people that can run into the current issues. And then of course, with the whole wires, if it updates to the left or whatever it does, that's going to break things, just because whatever contraption you have to the left is going to update first. But But that's something I think people are just going to have to fix for, and then they're just going forward. Everybody's on the same page. We all know the same rules, that sort of thing.
You know,
Yeah.
the one thing that I'm most upset about is the look of the new redstone torches. I do not like them one bit.
No.
They
They're
are the
beautiful.
ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Beautiful.
And I've seen a lot of ugly things.
I don't know whether
Well,
to take
most-
offense at that or not, Jurassics.
Well, so a lot of people use resource packs, to change it. So I don't. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it was just the one thing when I saw it, I was just like, nah, that just doesn't work for me. It looks too fat as well now. I like just a little, almost like burnt end on the top of the redstone torch.
Did you say it looks too fancy? Is that what you said?
No, what did I say? It just looks too big, too bulbous on the top now. Yeah.
Well, actually, I agree with that. Too bulbous. Yes, that's true.
I think
Actually,
it's,
it does look bulbous.
I think it's just a little bit too light because we're used to that little darker color.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, out of all the redstone changes, they're all experimental, but except for that one. That one's already in. It's coming up in the next floor release.
No.
I will be getting a resource pack for that. Don't worry.
Be the next one, vanilla tweaks. What's the bet?
Yeah.
One thing that I think on the more positive side, people are excited about is minecart changes with these experiments. And one thing that we do on this podcast is theorize. Someone put out the theory, I forget who it was, that if they introduce different speeds in vanilla Minecraft using something like maybe a new rail, copper rail, depending on how it's oxidized, will depend on the speed that you can go on the rail. Again, people depend on minecarts going at a certain speed within their contraptions, like sorting systems, and you don't want them going too fast, or that's going to mess things up. But I think
too slow.
Yeah, or too slow. So I think overall, I like the minecart changes, and they're still tweaking them. So
yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they came up with different speed of rails. Because isn't it like copper bulbs, right? There's different oxidizations of the bulb, but despite that, when you put a comparator and read it, I think it's always the same signal, right?
right.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, oh, they're gonna add this little extra feature, right? So it's like more oxidized, maybe less power or something like that. But they never did it. And I thought, wow, it's such a missed opportunity. Something very small, but something like a rail would be pretty big change. We do have waterlogged rails, which does give you a little bit different speed. You can also pulse the rail for a little bit different speed, but yeah, there's really not that many options.
I think that was a good change.
That was Cubic Meter who suggested sort of the copper rails, and he really dove deep into the new minecart mechanics and sort of ways that it could be beneficial to the technical community, and also having the ability to have faster mine carts for travel, because like we all see, we get an elytra and then that's it. But I just want to build like what was it, the Donkey Kong game where you're in the mine cart and it goes like jumping over things, and that to me that's going to be the new opportunity to make use of these new rails.
Yeah, and me personally, I think Minecraft needs to have more mining, more things to deal with mining. Miners hats. The game is called Minecraft, so it needs more stuff that comes directly from mining. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, agree. Have you guys ever heard of the game or played the game called Motherlode?
No.
I have heard of it, and I think I played it, but I can't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, just some little aspects of mining are in there, and they have like gas bubbles and stuff like that, and it makes sense to have like a miner helmet and then maybe some kind of thing that protects you from the gas poisoning. Now that we have these really deep worlds, we can have all sorts of kind of dangers at the bottom of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we might get that in 10 years' time. The speed these updates
That's
come.
true.
We still need the end update. We still need the inventories. The inventory is the
yes.
most important. You know, there's so many things I think we would love to see, but I do. Yeah, it would be lovely. Oh, be awesome to see poison bubbles within the caves. You know, you have flooded caves. Why not have gaseous caves? We've got wind charges. Someone just let off too many wind charges.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that, I mean, even the suggestion that I put in the feedback about using wind charges to oxidize copper, it makes sense from a lore perspective. You know, your trial chambers are fully oxidized because you've got the breeze around there, or mostly oxidized. So I think that would be a way to oxidize copper more quickly using wind chargers. But who knows? Who knows what? We never know what Mojang is going to do.
Yeah, we think they're going to duck and they choose to dive instead.
We're hoping for the end, and then they bring out the kangaroo update.
Is there an update, Ray, that you would like to see them, like, if you could pick something for them to update in the next update, is there something you would like to see them do, a preference?
I think, yeah, it's kind of tough because I've been playing for like all 15 years. So I got so used to just like accepting whatever comes kind of thing, not really getting too worked up about, you know, the goods and the bads. So yeah, I don't really think about it too much, but yeah, I think like inventory movement, that'd be nice if you could have an easier way to kind of move stuff in and out of your inventory. There is, you know, more automation around that. You know, if they did like a whole minecart update and you can use minecarts to transfer stuff, especially if you could work better with like unloaded chunks, could send them through. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Oh, personally, I think inventory needs an overhaul really, really quickly. Like I've just completed one part of my build there on Interrealms. It was a 30,000 block segment, but I used so many different variations of block and so many in different ways, and it was all sort of mix and match. And when I was looking back at the replay mod footage, the amount of times I've flown back down to my shulker boxes, changed over my inventory for the next section of the part of the build that I was in, fly back up. You know, I was saying to, I think it was to Jurassics, even just one more line of inventory space would have helped so much more. And I know that's only like a relatively simple change. It's not a very technical change, but just even more space would have made such a huge difference instead of having a janky replay where this person's going down and back all the time. I'd like to see inventory. The end needs an update, but for me, it's inventory.
Yeah, I too would like to see that as well. I think the bundles are a really good early game thing, but that's all they are. It's not a thing that a builder is probably going to use to do an epic build. Yeah,
definitely not. I think I'm very much on the inventory side, but I was talking to the Otter General, the other Interrealms player, and we were talking about it, and I was saying like the end update and shulkers and enchantments for shulker boxes could be I don't think it will solve the problem, but that's a way to have boxes of shulkers in your inventory and you can pull items from that and restock the stacks in your sort of personal inventory. I feel that could be an option if they went down that route, but like we've seen before, we never know what they're going to do.
Well, speaking of never knowing what they're going to do, did anyone see that style of trailer for the upcoming Minecraft movie?
I was going to ask if we were going to address the elephant in the room.
Or the sheep, you mean?
Or the sheep in the room. We will not discuss the sheep. After what's happened. But
there's some cursed images, Ray. I'm sure Josh can send some over to you.
I don't know why I've been chosen to have my face superimposed on the sheep in the Interrealms Discord, but apparently I have.
Why?
Let's not go there. But what do you guys think about the trailer? To wind us out today, trailer discussion. What do we think? Not what I was expecting, put it that way.
I was fully expecting an animated movie, and when I saw live action coming in, I was like, okay. And what is it? Jason Momoa wearing that very interesting jacket, coat, whatever we want to call it, was definitely a shock. But I think we have to kind of remove ourselves a little bit, and it's very much, I feel, aimed at kids and having like a little bit of wackiness, having some fun, not taking themselves too seriously. I don't know. I watched Mumbo Jumbo's video on it, and I was like, actually, I see where he's coming from. And there are some cursed images, but I think it's fun. It's different. It's enlightening, and I think you could be very easy just to fall into the trap of trying to replicate Minecraft game in a movie instead of having a separate identity to the Minecraft universe.
Yeah, I mean, we know what they kind of did, other little Minecraft related things, and what they got story mode or whatever, and they do have that Minecraft feel. This is, they're trying to do something completely different, so it kind of makes sense. It's going to look completely different. Addressing that guy's code or whatever, maybe it's part of the story. Maybe he picks up that coat from his kid or something. We don't know the story yet, how that all happens, or how do these different people come together anyways, right? Maybe they all end up accidentally falling through this portal, and then they have to work together. Like, we just don't understand the whole story yet.
That's a really good point. Yeah, we don't know much from the trailer, but it's just, yeah. I think, my initial, when I first saw it, my first view was, what on earth is going on here? But then, my kids watched it and they laughed. They were, my daughter thought the llama was cute. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. That's right. They're aiming it at probably the next generation of player to bring, like, as Jurassic said, 2 kids. And I think that's definitely where it's aimed at.
Yeah. I'm on the fence, but I'm just going to close it out. My thought when I first saw it was the same thought from the first line you hear in the trailer is, what the hell? And that's where I'm at.
I mean, anyone brave enough to put Jack Black in a V-neck turtleneck sweater, I mean, you can't top that. That is an image that's going to live on for eternity.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I guess we'll know more, because that was just a teaser. That's not the full trailer. Hopefully, I think that's what's missing is the. What's the story here? We know it's Minecraft, but what's the story? Well, thank you once again, RaysWorks, for joining us here today to discuss your history and Redstone, experimental changes, and what the future holds for Minecraft and the Minecraft movie. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. It's fun.
And of course, Jurassic's, you're always welcome. You're always welcome here. Especially when I'm not available. Yeah. You're the official fill-in co-host.
I am now. I've been upgraded. Amazing.
Yeah.
But no, yes, just to echo that. Yeah, Ray, thanks for coming on. Do appreciate you accepting the invite. And if you ever want to come back on, just drop me a line and you'll be more than welcome to come back as well.
Yeah, maybe, when they come out with all these Redstone changes.
For sure. But Ray, where can people, if they want to know more about you and want to see more of your contraptions, or some of our listeners may not have heard of you, I don't know who, but where can people find you?
Yeah, YouTube is my biggest one. Just search me up, RaysWorks. But I'm all over the place.
And I found you on Twitch this morning. I didn't know you streamed, so there you go. So you're on Twitch as well.
That's a common thing. People are like, you stream? It's like, I used to stream every day. Every single day I used to stream. And I've been doing it for 6 years, 7 years now.
There you go. But no, you are on Twitch as well.
Yeah, I was trying to catch it in between truckloads of rocks to the crusher. And as for the rest of us, if you want to find us, the Interrealms members here, Trojan, Jurassic, and myself, you can find us all our links and whatnots on the interimssmp.com website. And if you look towards the top, there is a place to connect with us individually or to find the podcast episodes. Everything, all the information there is on the website. There's also the Discord if you want to talk to us live and in person. You can do that by clicking the Discord link down here in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it, leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of this episode and say hi to Ray. Where else? Oh, you can find us at mclab_podcast over there on X. And if you want to send us an email, it is minecraftlabpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it.
That's everywhere.
We got that, Miner.
And catch us in the live streams. Hey, how do I end this thing, guys?
Push that one button.
Yeah, use the redstone, push the button, and it all turns off.
I do that.